Released by Square Enix in 2011 on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, director Motomu Toriyama, writer Daisuke Watanabe, and mostly the same team from Final Fantasy XIII, return to create the second installment in the main Fabula Nova Crystallis trilogy. Taking a different tone and gameplay approach, this game features a darker story and heavy time-traveling overtone, which results in multiple open worlds that can be approached in a non-linear fashion, with 10 distinct endings for the game, and real-time opportunities to creatively twist an already complex story. There are only two main protagonists of the game, with the active strategy battle system still in place, though players can utilize any number of over 150 different monsters and characters that can be recruited and grown as a third battle companion. The story only gets larger from here, so let's cut it down to size with a recapitation. The game starts in the world of Valhalla, where Lightning finds herself a guardian over this land at the end of time in the service of a weakened goddess Etro, goddess stemming a flood of darkness called Chaos from escaping and ruining time. Battling against her is a man named Kaius, a powerful wielder of chaos energy. After their duel, a boy from the end of time, named Noel, is sent to Valhalla via a time gate. She foresaw his arrival and uses her enhanced magic to rescue him by aid of additional Eidolons. She instructs him to travel back in time to find her sister Sarah and save the future while she continues to fight Kaius. She sends him off with a special Moogle that can transform into weapons, despite how Noel also recognizes Kaius. Meanwhile, back in time, it's been 3 years since the fall of Cocoon, as Sarah is now living in a small village of New Bodom on Grand Pulse, and she somehow has dreams and visions of Lightning's battles. Suddenly, as a strange meteor crashes nearby, an even stranger phenomenon occurs around Sarah, suddenly dressing her in new clothes. As she steps out, the phenomenon occurs again and even stronger, and suddenly Sarah finds herself walking in a ruined version of her world, and she senses she's somehow interacting with the future. As she is abruptly returned to her original time, the beachside has erupted into combat as strange monsters are suddenly pouring out of portals. Noel arrives in time as well, hands Sarah the Moogle weapon Lightning left for her, and they repel the wave of monsters. Noel then explains that Lightning sent him and Mog to retrieve her, and Sarah is surprised to hear someone else remembers Lightning is still alive. For some reason, after she had awoken from her crystal sleep, Sarah found that everyone except for her suddenly has no memory of Lightning, thinking she died after saving Cocoon, and insists Sarah is only imagining it. With her strange visions and suddenly the appearance of Noel and Mog, Sarah suddenly has renewed hope for finding Lightning. They start by investigating the meteorite that fell nearby, also from her vision, and find that it formed unstable time pockets nearby, by which some small areas are being affected by phenomena suddenly speeding its existence forward by hundreds of years. Noel recognizes this as two different timelines blending together and explains the meteorite fell with him from Valhalla. As they approach, all of Cocoon suddenly vanishes, and Noel explains that they are seeing the timeline he comes from, where Cocoon long fell and doesn't exist anymore. For Sarah, it's 3 AF, or 3 years after the fall of Cocoon, but for Noel, he's from 700 AF. He proves he's a time traveler by unveiling a time gate and tells them that to activate it they need an artifact in the form of any object present here that was displaced from another time or dimension. During the search, Sarah has flashbacks to when she awoke and Lightning disappeared in an instant. Not even her companions remembered her, though Snow believed her and afterwards left on a journey to go look for Lightning. They find an artifact in a mysterious mirror, but before agreeing to leave with him, Sarah questions Noel's motivations, and he explains he is the last born human in his timeline, failed to help his world, and so is driven to build a better future from the past. Lightning essentially saved him from his dismal timeline and gave him a new hope and new purpose, so he's repaying the debt. Sarah decides to trust him, and together they enter the time gate, unaware of the duo looking on. They travel through the crossroads of time, the Historia Crux, and it leads them 2 years into the future, where humanity is forming a society based on science and technology, moving away from former Fal'Cie dependence, and arrive at a dig site in Cocoon unearthing some ancient technology. As soon as they arrive, a giant monster visible only by its arm attacks, and though they help out, they are arrested under suspicion of involvement. They are quickly helped out by a girl named Alyssa, who explains that areas around the time gate seem to experience what's called a paradox effect, wherein normally impossible or contradictory things exist or occur. One example is this Atlas giant, which is appearing in multiple places and timelines at the same time. In order to buy time to find another gate and get back to Lightning, they agreed to help remove the Atlas problem, and along the way, Sarah finds she, like her sister, has the power to tame and control monsters in battle. They indeed find multiple time gates and figure they lead to different timelines as well, though each one apparently requires a different artifact key to activate. Learning that Atlas is a human-built bioweapon in Noel's past and potentially Sarah's future, they find its control mechanism and discover it's under a paradox anomaly. Resolving it, they weaken the giant, force it into their timeline, and finish it off, ending the paradox it was creating and repairing the damage done by the time warp. Alyssa then reveals she was a survivor of the Bodom Purge years ago, which Sarah was involved in, and mentions that in the paradox she was dead in another timeline. Activating another gate, they travel another 5 years into the future, where they find an establishment named the Academy is leading humanity's future in restoring technology once powered by Fal'Cie. Arriving in the Yashas Massif, they find the land is unusually dark. Noel reveals that 500 years ago from his time, a massive Fal'Cie blotted out the sun and created an eternal eclipse, but that would still be 200 years into Sarah's future, and since it's currently in a limited area for some reason, it must be a paradox in effect. This is confirmed by a local Academy member who informs them that they are aware of it's a paradox by a Fal'Cie named Fenrir, in conjunction with the many time gates they unearthed at a local dig site. Investigating, a monster suddenly appears from a hole in space, similar to New Bodom, but they are saved by the intervention of Hope, now 10 years older than the boy he was when he helped save Cocoon. He's now the director of the Academy, and actually predicted their arrival here based on data he pulled from their jump 5 years ago in his time. He informs her that Snow and Zaz haven't been seen for the past 10 years either, as they both felt something was off when Lightning suddenly disappeared. He feels that all of them, though through separate means, are all looking for some way to bring everyone back together again. The ruins they're in right now are from an ancient nation of people called the Farseers. They were ruled by a series of seeresses that could always see the future, whom would always be called Yule. Eventually, the Civil War broke out when the populace could not decide a firm action in reaction to a disastrous foretold future, and the nation fell apart. He shows them a strange device called an Oracle Drive, which seems to be an ancient recording device. He shows them one of interest, which depicts Lightning and the exploits that saved Cocoon, but that's strange given the device itself is hundreds of years old. He has another recording that shows Lightning's battle in Valhalla, but it's too fuzzy due to the paradox in the local area, so Sarah and Noel move to resolve it as Hope hands them an artifact key they found. Traveling to the next world, they arrive in Erebor 200 AF, Vanille and Fang's hometown in the distant future. However, almost nothing is there, and Mog explains the world is tangled up as space-time is folded upon itself here. Dissolving the many anomalies in the town one by one, they slowly rebuild the town and discover another Oracle Drive. Activating it, they see the memory of Sarah's reawakening as she originally remembers it, but then sees it rewritten to the memory everybody else around her remembers. Wondering how that is, Kaius appears to inform them that if you change the future, you change the past to match it. A seeress named Yule appears, and though Noel thinks he knows her, it's apparently a different Yule from a different timeline. She says she's been watching them make changes across time, and Kaius declares that he intends to stop them. They are no match for Kaius, though Yule stops him, insisting they move on. Getting another artifact, the duo travel back to Yashas Massif, but find it in an alternate reality wherein the eclipse is not in effect. Wondering if this alternate past resulted from them solving a paradox in the future, they investigate, and along the way Noel reveals Kaius used to be his mentor. They return to the ruins to find yet another Yule, who tells Sarah that she, like the other Yules, have the ability to see a particular timeline they should follow, and can lead others along that path. Continuing on, they find Hope again, though the circumstances are different. In this timeline, there is no eclipse because they resolved the paradox in the future, but waiting there was still something Hope planned to do given their encounter 5 years prior in the same timeline. Watching the Oracle Drive with no interference now, Hope concludes that Lightning is not only alive, but after their battle with Orphan, she was somehow placed in the distant future. However, they also see the recording change before their eyes, in which Cocoon falls, which now means the future will be dead like in Noel's timeline. Seeing the catastrophe in the making, Hope says he'll begin work immediately to prepare for the disaster, while Sarah and Noel now look to investigate what makes it fall in the first place, though she wonders if changing this event in the future will create unintended consequences in the past as well. As they travel to the next world, Yule and Kaius are not far away as Yule suddenly collapses and dies. Arriving in the Sunleth water escape 300 AF, they see a mass influx of Flan monsters, and Sarah collapses as she has a vision of Snow getting beaten by a massive Flan monster, but recovers and runs off. She finds the real Snow doing battle as she saw, and with Noel, the three of them manage to beat down the monster. However, this mutant Flan is the product of the hundreds of Flan merging together, making this fight futile. So, they pull back for now. Snow reveals Lightning sent him a dream to save Cocoon from falling, which is why he left and traveled through time to this point as well. Apparently, this giant Flan is slowly melting the pillar that holds up Cocoon, though later a human conflict will actually be the straw that breaks its back and tips it over. Figuring that this giant monster is also a living paradox, they figure they'll have to travel elsewhere to stop the source of the monster infestation and prevent the giant monster from being created in the first place. Unfortunately, Snow is unable to use the same gates as them and must stay behind. Traveling next to the Archult Steppe, they find a tribe of hunters surviving the wildlands, who have a machine that can also control the weather in the area, dramatically affecting the type of monsters that appear. They discover a monster with a time rift that's been eating all the local flaunt and sending them back to Sunlith. Destroying the monster and cutting off the problem at the source, they return to Sunlith and find the paradox still unresolved. Seeing if it's a double paradox, they visit a unique plane of existence outside the timelines called the Colosseum, where its warden is more than willing to hand them an artifact that's been nothing but trouble for him. Returning again, they find Snow charged ahead to finish off the remaining mutant flaunt. Beating it together, the corrected timeline removes Snow from the picture as he never would have been there in the first place with the paradox gone. As he disappears, Sarah notices the new Lassie brand Snow carries, and he doesn't answer who gave it to him. Understanding he did it to gain the power of a Lassie to protect everyone, she's determined now to save Snow's fate as a Lassie like he did for her, so they move on. During a rest break, Sarah questions that if they resolve enough paradoxes to prevent a future in which Noel exists, then won't he disappear? And Noel says that likely would be for the best. During their travels, they visit a unique plane of existence ruled over a goddess commonly known as Lady Luck, and similarly, it's a giant casino and minigame park. Next, traveling to 400 AF to check in on the state of Cocoon, they find the Academy has become the cornerstone of civilization, even accomplishing the construction of an artificial fal'Cie to power the city. Suddenly, the city's AI IDs and begins to hunt down Sarah, even producing Seath from the local citizens. Then, Kaius comes out and says the reason why is because they are the paradox the city is trying to stop, as they should have died 200 years ago in this same city, yet are alive now. From the city's perspective, that's a paradox. During their escape to find another gate, they rescue another Yule. However, Yule says she was supposed to die this time, and them saving her actually causes a paradox, though she's wounded and dies anyway, and Noel bitterly accepts it as he explains the rules to Sarah. Finding another gate and traveling back 200 years to see when they were purportedly killed, they arrive in Augusta Tower, the central mainframe computer to the Academy, which also houses the early proto-fal'Cie being built. They learn that the proto-fal'Cie was started way back in 13 AF as a solution to re-levitate Cocoon, so there's no need to worry even if the pillar falls. It was proposed and designed by Alyssa, and the project was directed by Hope. Further in, they note the people within don't seem real, and they find a recording of them that is somehow of events 200 years in the future. Noel reveals that he and Kaius were guardians to the Seers, and after Kaius left on his own, Noel failed to protect their own Yule. Following Kaius through the same gate he used, it led him to Valhalla where he met both Kaius and Lightning. However, it's strange they keep running into Kaius, and the last one they met that let Yule die couldn't have been the real one. On cue, they see another Kaius and question if it's the real one, but cannot proceed due to a strange keycard paradox. To resolve this, they travel forward 100 years to 300 AF, and their movements are immediately being tracked by the computer, which already considers them a living paradox. They learn from there that this time, Augusta Tower is being hacked from the future, and the AI is hostilely taking over the Academy and government. They fix the system from there and stop the hacking, but the AI considers this a threat as they have again messed with history and created an alternate future. Going back 100 years to 200 AF with the proper security, they encounter a synthetic AI version of Alyssa that informs them people resembling Kaius and Yule are in the tower. Figuring they must be trying to progress their foreseen future, which involves Sarah and Noel dying here in this tower, they move to talk to them. As they move up, they see a sudden recording of Hope and Alyssa getting murdered by the AI 187 years ago, and find that it was this broken AI that finishes the proto-fal'Cie and not Hope. Escaping the death trap, they move to save Hope and Alyssa from the same fate. As they move up the tower, Noel figures Kaius isn't the one pulling the AI's strings, but notes his memory is slowly deteriorating. When they meet Yule near the next time gate, she explains that though she and her predecessors used to record the prophecies they had on Oracle drives, there is no need anymore as Kaius will remember and protect the entire timeline himself. Both of them are gifted by the goddess Etro, so just as she contains the eyes of Etro and will always reincarnate the same after death, Kaius now has the heart of Chaos's immortality and he can protect all of time. She also reveals a lot of chaotic timelines that have originated from when Lightning was removed from the point in which Cocoon was saved, as it was the future that changed and thus the path corrected itself that way. In short, she confirms the timeline Sarah is working to correct is the true timeline, so they are doing the right thing. Finally, she reveals the Kaius that attacked them in the city was another imitation created by the AI, which is also the hacker and entity trying to kill them this whole time. As they leave yet again, Yule sees a changed but better future and dies. As they confront the AI, the proto-fal'Cie from the future attacks them, and Noel figures this entire place must be where the future and past are intersecting, which is resulting in a machine from the future coming back to the past to create itself. Unfortunately, this closed chicken and egg time loop means the proto-fal'Cie cannot be destroyed within this perpetual time space. Finding that fighting the continually adapting future machines gets them nowhere, Sarah makes a plea to the past, shouting at Hope not to build the AI or Proto-Val-C at all. This actually works, as the loop is stopped by never starting in the first place. Suddenly, Sarah gets a new vision of being attacked by Kaius and collapses from it. Recovering, they travel to a corrected 400 AF where the city is no longer under the thumb of a vicious AI. The future looks a lot brighter, and they're surprised to be greeted by Hope and Alyssa, despite it being 390 years since their last encounter. He explains he built a stasis pod for himself and Alyssa, and that's why they're still alive, and confirms he saw Sarah shouting in the Oracle Drive, which caused him to abandon the building of the Proto-Val-C. Now in the future, they see a 13th arc floating suddenly in the sky, and researching it has shown it's powered by something called a graviton core. However, to apply it to Cocoon to float again, they will need many more cores, so there's a hunt for those. Finding enough cores scattered across time and history, Hope has enough to begin the Cocoon Reconstruction and Levitation project, though it will take another 100 years to complete. Alyssa then hands them an artifact to a newly appeared gate, and once they've all made final preparations, Hope sees them off and plans to go into stasis again for another 100 years. However, only Mog notices the smug and suspicious final glance Alyssa leaves with. Blindsided by a trap in the Historia Crux from Alyssa's booby-trapped artifact, Noel, Mog, and Sarah are flung apart from each other in the timeline crossroads. Sarah finds herself in the void beyond, where she meets another Yule who explains this place is but a fragmented echo of Valhalla. She then reveals that Sarah's ability to time travel and see the future are also signs she is a chosen servant of the goddess Etro. Lightning too is a servant, though as a guardian role, and cannot leave Valhalla, hence why Sarah was tasked with all this power. Another Yule explains that when everyone saved Cocoon, it was the goddess Etro that miraculously released everyone from their crystal state, though doing so meant warping time. Suddenly, Kaius appears and offers to end her struggle by trapping her in a dream world, though he too is a servant of the goddess. He chooses instead to use his power to protect Yule above all else. He explains that every time a distortion or paradox occurs, the Yule of that time period sees a new future vision frequently enough to die. As he has witnessed countless Yule's death as a result of the paradox starting with Etro's saving of her and Lightning's group from Crystal Fates, he finds it would be easier to simply end history so as to prevent any further deaths. As a result, he has come to clash with Sarah and Noel, who has been fixing paradoxes to save mankind, but at the cost of that timeline's Yule, who means all the world to Kaius. For the sake of Yule, he intends to even return to Valhalla and kill Etro, whom only has Lightning to protect her. Kaius defeats Sarah and runs her through on his sword. As he slays Sarah, Sarah then wakes to find herself in New Bodom again, with her friends, Snow, and even Lightning there. However, another distortion has her questioning this dream despite how convincingly real and idyllic it is. Saving her from her dream prison is Vanille, who's still sleeping in the Crystal Pillar and is speaking to Sarah's dream from her own. Even Fang is there to help Sarah out of his bind and show her a way out. Now free, she turns to save Noel from his dream world by jumping directly there. She finds herself in 700 AF at the end of days where Noel is from. She sees him still lost in his dream, and at a time when Kaius was his mentor and he was training to become the next true Guardian, in which he was to defeat and kill Kaius, and gain the Heart of Chaos to become the next true Guardian. There, Kaius once explained to him that there was a way to save Yule and leave this wasteland, and that was by killing him. In doing so, they'll kill a manifestation of Etro, which will unleash the chaos in Valhalla and destroy their terrible past. Though Noel refused, it was then Kaius then went to Valhalla to battle Lightning and attempt to kill the goddess himself. It wasn't long then when Yule died, as was her fate, as he learned then that all Seeresses die young anyway, given how every time they see the future, they lose a portion of their life, so every vision that they have brings them closer to an early death. Sarah snaps him out of his dream, but Noel is reluctant to continue on, as he realizes now Sarah has the exact same power as Yule, which means the same consequences. Every new vision she gets and has been getting shaves off her life, but so far it hasn't been enough to kill her, but it will one day. Given how the visions are uncontrollable and she gets a new one every time they change something, she's quickly dying just like the many Yules so far. Still, Sarah is determined to finish their mission, hopefully in time to stop any more visions. Next, Mog returns to them with a message from Lightning, who explained more about Kaius. Guardians like him were really just lessee with the mission to protect the Seeress. However, Etro released Kaius as a lessee. Still, with the Heart of Chaos, his power, immortality, and listening to every Seeress in history means he can manipulate history however he wants. Traveling now to a New Bodom far in the future, she finds the real Lightning at long last. But their reunion is short. She explains that on the day they saved Cocoon, Etro's intervention allowed some Chaos Darkness energy to slip through, which pulled her away, and warped the timeline ever since. She found herself adrift in time until she woke in Valhalla, where she suddenly sensed the goddess's will. Etro was weakened and chose lightning to protect her and save the world and timeline from chaos. Should Etro disappear, chaos energy would surge forth unchecked and throw the world into an eternal state of entropy. They find if a great many people die at once, then chaos energy can surge out as well, as what would happen if Kaius were to drop Cocoon and kill everybody there, and turn this world into another Valhalla. They learn Kaius can accomplish this if they go to the point where Cocoon falls, and Hope tries to save everyone, which is 500 AF. As their final destination, they arrive and indeed find Academia turning into Valhalla already. Kaius transforms into a Bahamut form, moves out to destroy both Hope's Ark and Cocoon, and stalls them for time. Fortunately, Hope is there to give them a hand, and even Zaz is finally back to help cut a path through and fly them straight to Kaius. As they fight, Kaius urges Sarah to stop as she is doomed to the same fate as Yule otherwise, but Sarah cares more about protecting the future than her own life. Then, a massive gate to Valhalla opens up and Kaius enters, closely followed by Zaz, who drops the two off and to follow. The chase is finally over as Kaius has nowhere left to run, and he has no intention to run. Their strength of wills clash, but Noel proves his strength over his former friend and mentor. As Kaius falls, a surge of chaos erupts out and they find themselves surrounded by three powerful monsters of chaos. Defeating them, Kaius accepts his defeat and asks for death, but Noel refuses to end him on his terms. Attacking Sarah, he forces Noel to land a mortal strike, but even then Noel doesn't kill him. Smirking, he forces the sword in and falls on Noel's sword anyway, and his Heart of Chaos is destroyed. Doing so resolves the final paradox and time is finally fixed. Leaving Valhalla, they leave for 500 AF and hope to find Lightning and the others there. As Final Fantasy XIII-2 concludes, the Crystal Pillar is about to fall, but Hope and Zaz succeed in pulling Vanille and Fang's crystal forms out safely. The original Cocoon finally falls, but Hope was successful in evacuating everybody to the floating Ark, renamed Boonavels, as it lifts off to be the new home for the human race. Sarah and Hope return safely as well, as it appears all is well when the last gate closes. Sarah turns to Noel and thanks him, and he senses something wrong as he catches her, as the power of Etro gives her one last revised future vision and shaves off the last bit of life out of her uncontrollably, just as Kaius said it would. With Sarah gone, Noel somberly explains to the confused Hope how she died, just like all the other Yules that have died when their foreseen futures changed as well. In addition, with the Heart of Chaos gone like Kaius wanted, so too does Etro die. Noel realizes too late he killed the goddess, and the chaos she was holding back is now fully unleashed. Consuming everything as the timeline is seized by chaos, we see Lightning atop the throne of Etro, frozen in a crystal state. As the game ends, Kaius is still alive with the power of chaos in hand, standing triumphant with new control over his life, and in the distant future, Lightning awakens once again to a cliffhanger ending. Final Fantasy XIII-2 has enjoyed the success of selling over 3 million copies worldwide.